I was 13 when I first saw him. It was a random Tuesday night, one of those evenings where the house felt too quiet and my mom had gone to bed early, leaving me alone with the flickering light of the television. I wasn't looking for anything special, just mindlessly flipping through channels when his face appeared. It wasn't like I'd never seen handsome actors before. But this was different. He was in the middle of delivering a line, a simple one, nothing extraordinary, yet the way he looked into the camera, eyes half-shadowed, jaw tense, lips curling into the faintest, almost dangerous smile, it made something in me stop. My hand froze on the remote. My breath caught. For a few seconds, I didn't even hear the words, just the tone, deep and rich, dripping with charm and something else I couldn't name. Then the camera cut to someone else, but it was too late. That face had already been burned into me. His name was Evan Blake. Of course, I didn't know that right away. That came after I scrambled to grab my phone, replayed the TV guide, searched his name, and found myself spiraling into an internet rabbit hole at 2 in the morning. Movies. Interviews. Red carpet photos. Talk show appearances. He wasn't just handsome. He had that thing, the charisma that made you feel like he was speaking directly to you, even in a crowd of millions. Watching him felt like a secret, like he knew I was there. At first, it was harmless. Posters on my bedroom wall. A playlist of every movie he'd been in. Following every official social media account. But somewhere along the way, I realized I was smiling more when he smiled. My mood rose and fell with his. If a magazine posted a new photo of him, I would stare at it longer than I'd like to admit, tracing the lines of his face with my eyes like I was memorizing him. And then there were the dreams. Not normal dreams, vivid ones. I'd dream of walking down quiet streets with him, his hand brushing mine, his voice whispering in my ear, sometimes even calling my name. I'd wake up with my skin warm, heart pounding, feeling both ashamed and thrilled. I told no one. It became a private world, one where Evan Blake wasn't just a celebrity, he was mine. My version of him was softer, more vulnerable, the way I imagined he was when the cameras were off. But then, I started noticing something strange. In interviews, he'd say phrases that sounded eerily familiar, words I'd written in the letters I never sent, thoughts I'd posted anonymously online in obscure fan forums. It was stupid, I knew that. Coincidence. But the first time it happened, my stomach turned over. You ever feel like you've known someone your whole life, even if you've never met, he said in one late-night interview, staring straight into the camera. I froze. I had written almost the exact sentence on a fan blog 3 weeks earlier. It happened again when he laughed about loving black coffee with too much sugar, my favorite, though. I'd never told anyone. It was probably nothing. Right? Still, my obsession grew roots. I began tracking every appearance, every project, every moment he could possibly be online. I wasn't just a fan anymore, I was studying him. Then, one night, scrolling through Instagram, I saw it. A photo. Not a professional one. Not paparazzi. It was a blurry, grainy shot of a crowd at an event, but in the background, between two people, Evan Blake's gaze was locked straight at the camera. At me. The reason I was so sure. It was my profile picture. Someone, some stranger, had taken a candid photo from across a busy sidewalk earlier that week. I'd thought nothing of it when it was sent to me by a friend. But in this photo, posted by a random fan account, Evan's head was turned in my direction, eyes fixed, as though he recognized me. I stared at it for hours, stomach twisting. It made no sense. But a part of me, a dangerous, hidden part, liked it. After that, I started noticing him in places I didn't expect. Scrolling TikTok. A suggested clip from an interview I'd never seen. On a bus ride. His latest ad plastered across the side of a passing truck. At the grocery store. His movie playing on the tiny TV near the checkout. And then came the DM. It was late, past midnight, when I saw it. My phone buzzed, and there it was, sitting in my Instagram inbox like a bomb. At Ivan Blakey official, hey. I stared at it so long my vision blurred. This had to be fake. But the account was verified, the blue check gleaming like it was mocking me. I didn't answer at first. I just sat there, pulse hammering in my ears. Another message came. Evan, I don't usually do this, but I've seen you online a few times. You seem different. I think I stopped breathing. Different. That one word cracked something open in me. I told myself to be cautious, that this was insane, that celebrities don't just DM random fans. But my fingers moved before my brain caught up. Hi. I'm a huge fan. From there, it snowballed. His replies were fast, direct, almost intimate. He said he liked my photos, my thoughts, the way I looked at the world. He asked where I lived. I didn't tell him. Not yet. But I wanted to. Days passed like a fever dream. We messaged constantly, and every time my phone lit up with his name, I felt like I was sinking deeper into something I didn't understand. And then, one evening, he sent something that made the air in my room turn cold. A photo. Not of him. Of me. Taken through my bedroom window. My curtains were drawn halfway, the dim light of my desk lamp spilling out into the night. In the photo, I was sitting cross-legged on my bed, phone in my hand, the exact moment I was reading his last message. I dropped my phone. My mind raced, my heart thudding so loud I thought it would wake my mom. My hands shook as I picked it up again, hoping I'd misread, misseen, but no. Under the photo, he'd written. I like watching you when you don't know I'm there. I told myself it had to be a joke. A sick, twisted joke. I typed, what the hell is this? But before I could send it, 3 little dots appeared, the typing bubble. His reply came instantly. Don't worry. I'd never hurt you. Somehow, that made it worse. I wanted to block him, to throw my phone across the room, to scream, but I just sat there, paralyzed, staring at the photo. Somewhere outside, beyond my window, I thought I heard footsteps on the pavement. Slow. Steady. And then they stopped. I didn't sleep that night. And in the morning, when I checked my phone, there was one more message waiting for me. No photo this time. Just words. I think it's time we met. I didn't answer his last message. Not because I didn't want to. God, a part of me wanted it so badly it scared me, but because my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I kept rereading those 5 words like they were etched into my skin. I think it's time we met. I tried to tell myself it was just a prank, that someone had hacked his account, that this wasn't real. But deep down, I knew it was. By the next evening, my resolve had started to break. He hadn't messaged again, and the silence felt like an ache in my chest. It was ridiculous, I should have been relieved. Instead, I caught myself staring at my phone every few seconds, refreshing, waiting. And then, just after 9 p.m., the bubble appeared again. Evan, I'll be at Brookline Cafe tomorrow at 2. Wear the blue dress from your Instagram. I froze. He didn't say if you want to come. He didn't ask. It was an instruction. And the worst part? I didn't even remember posting a photo in that dress. I told myself not to go. I even typed out a message saying I couldn't make it, that it wasn't a good idea, but I didn't send it. My thumb hovered over the send button, and then, somehow, I was deleting the words. By morning, I had already decided. The blue dress felt tighter than I remembered, hugging me in all the wrong ways as I walked toward Brookline Cafe. My chest was tight, and every step felt heavier. I kept thinking about the photo he'd sent me through my window. About the footsteps. The cafe sat on the corner of a quiet street, all brick walls and warm light spilling out of the windows. Inside, people sat hunched over laptops or chatting in low voices. And then I saw him. He was in the far corner, wearing a black hoodie, cap pulled low. But even with half his face shadowed, I knew. My pulse spiked, and for a second, my vision went a little fuzzy. He looked up. Smiled. And just like that, my feet were moving toward him. "Hi," I managed, my voice trembling. "Hey." His smile was different in person. Smaller, sharper. "Sit." I did, sliding into the booth opposite him. For a moment, I just stared. This was Evan Blake. The man whose face I'd studied for years, whose voice had haunted my dreams. Up close, his skin was smooth but pale, almost too pale, like he hadn't seen sunlight in weeks. "You're really here," I said. "I told you I would be." He sipped his coffee without breaking eye contact. "You're prettier in person." Heat flushed my cheeks. "Thanks." We talked, or at least, I tried to. He didn't say much, just asked questions. What time I woke up. What my bedroom looked like. If my mom was home during the day. Every time I tried to steer the conversation towards something normal, he brought it back to me. It wasn't flirty. It wasn't even romantic. It was hungry. And then he leaned forward. "You know I've been watching you for a while, right?" My throat went dry. "You mean online?" He smiled, slow, deliberate. "Not just online." Something in my stomach twisted. I forced a laugh, pretending I thought he was joking. "That's creepy." "It's the truth." His voice was calm, almost gentle. "I needed to make sure you were the right one before I came to you." "The right one for what?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He didn't answer. Just reached into his pocket and slid something across the table. A photograph. It was me again, but not from my social media. This one was taken while I was sleeping. My head tilted to the side, mouth slightly open, hair spilling across my pillow. My hands shook as I pushed it back toward him. "Where did you?" "You left your window unlocked," he said simply, like it was no big deal. The room seemed to tilt. My heart pounded in my ears. "You should eat something," he said, as if nothing had happened. I'm not hungry." "Eat." His tone sharpened, and for the first time, I saw something in his eyes that wasn't charm, something cold, controlling. I picked at a muffin just to keep him from staring at me like that. When the check came, he stood, tossing a few bills on the table. "Come on. I'll walk you home." I froze. "It's fine, I can." He cut me off. I wasn't asking. The air outside felt heavier, the sunlight dulled. We walked in silence for a while. He didn't ask where I lived, he already knew. I realized that when we turned onto my street without me saying a word. Halfway there, I glanced over at him. He was smiling again, but it wasn't the kind of smile I'd fallen for. It was smaller, tighter, like he was holding something back. When we reached my house, I stopped at the gate. "Thanks for the coffee." He stepped closer, too close. "This isn't the last time we're meeting." I forced a smile. "Right." Then he leaned in, his mouth near my ear. "Lock your window tonight." Before I could respond, he turned and walked away. That night, I locked the window. Double-checked it. Triple-checked it. I even shoved my desk chair against it. I still couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house, every shadow on the wall made my skin crawl. Around 2 a.m., I thought I heard something faint, the sound of a shoe brushing against the gravel outside. I told myself it was the wind. But when I woke the next morning and went to open my curtains, there was something on the windowsill. A single, fresh blue flower. The same shade as my dress. And underneath it, tucked just out of sight, was another photo of me sleeping. This time, my bedroom door was open in the background. The photo with the open door stayed hidden in my desk drawer. I told myself it would be safer there, out of sight, but the truth was, I didn't throw it away because I couldn't. Every time I thought about ripping it up, I felt this strange mix of fear and something else. I hated admitting it, even to myself. The next few days, I tried to go back to normal. School, homework, dinner with mom. But normal doesn't exist when you know someone has been in your room while you slept. When you know that someone is still out there, waiting. And Evan didn't message me again. Not for 3 days. That should have been a relief, but instead, it was torture. I caught myself scanning every corner of the street when I left the house. Checking over my shoulder at the grocery store. Sitting in class, I thought I saw him once, a black hoodie and a low cap through the window, but when I blinked, he was gone. The silence felt like a trap. Then, on the 4th night, my phone buzzed. "Evan, miss me?" My stomach nodded. I typed, "What do you want from me?" His reply came instantly. "Evan, everything." I didn't answer. I didn't have to, the next message came before I could even think. "Evan, look outside." I froze. The air in my room felt thicker, heavier, like it was pushing in on me. Slowly, I stood and walked to the window. And there he was. Across the street, leaning against a lamppost, hood pulled up, hands in his pockets. Even from that distance, I could feel his eyes on me. He didn't wave. Didn't smile. Just stood there. My phone buzzed again. "Evan, you look good in that shirt." I stepped back from the window so fast I nearly tripped over my desk chair. My heart was hammering so hard I thought I might pass out. I typed, "Leave me alone." The typing bubble appeared. "Evan, you don't mean that." After that night, he was everywhere. I saw him when I walked to school, at the far end of the street, watching. At the library, sitting in a corner with a book he didn't seem to be reading. Once, when I turned a corner too quickly, I almost ran right into him. "Careful," he murmured, steadying me with one hand on my shoulder. His touch was cold, even through my jacket. "I told you to stop following me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He tilted his head. "And I told you, I'm not following. I'm making sure you're safe." "From what?" His smile didn't reach his eyes. "From everyone else." I pulled away and kept walking, but I could feel him behind me, his steps matching mine until I reached a busy intersection. When I glanced back, he was gone. I stopped sleeping through the night. Every noise jolted me awake. Sometimes I thought I heard someone breathing just outside my window. Once, I woke up certain there was a shadow at the foot of my bed, but when I blinked, it vanished. And then came the gifts. A silk ribbon in my locker at school. A coffee left on my porch with your favorite written on the lid in black marker. A necklace I'd once posted a photo of online, the exact same one, placed neatly on my pillow while I was in the shower. I never saw him leave them. I stopped telling myself this was flattering. It wasn't. It was a chokehold. But here's the thing, as terrified as I was, a part of me still wanted his attention. That was the sickest part. Like he'd somehow rewired my brain without me knowing. One Saturday afternoon, I was in my room, curtains drawn, when my phone buzzed. "Evan, open the door." My stomach dropped. "No. Evan, it's not a request." I didn't move. I just sat frozen on my bed, staring at the message. Then came the knock. Slow. Heavy. I crept to my bedroom door, listening. Mom wasn't home. My pulse was in my throat. Another knock. I grabbed my phone and typed with trembling hands, "If you don't leave, I'm calling the police." A pause. Then. Evan, do you think they'd get here before I got inside? Something in me broke. I grabbed my baseball bat from the closet and crept to the living room, heart hammering. When I peeked through the peephole, no one was there. I waited 10 minutes before I dared open the door. On the porch was a small box, tied with a blue ribbon. Against every shred of common sense, I picked it up. It was light, almost too light. Inside was a single Polaroid photograph. Me, standing at my bedroom window, taken from the street. The timestamp in the corner read, 3:12 a.m. That night, I pushed my dresser against the door. I couldn't stop thinking about him standing outside, watching. At some point, exhaustion pulled me under. I don't know how long I slept before I woke to a faint sound, not knocking this time, but something softer. A whisper. Right by my ear. I bolted upright, fumbling for the lamp. My room was empty. But when I looked at my phone, there was a new message. Evan, you look so peaceful when you sleep. The morning after his whisper, or whatever it had been, I woke up with the kind of exhaustion that feels buried in your bones. I kept telling myself it was a dream, that my brain had stitched together all my fears into something unreal. But deep down, I knew. It was the way I felt when I stepped out of bed, toes curling against the carpet, only to notice my curtains were open again. I'd closed them the night before. I knew I had. The view outside was too bright, too normal for what I felt inside. People walking dogs. Cars passing. The ordinary world moving forward, oblivious. But my skin kept crawling. I didn't see him that day. Not at school. Not in the street. Not even online. Which made it worse. Because that night, I dreamed of him. In the dream, I wasn't in my bed, I was in some dimly lit room with walls that seemed to breathe. He was sitting across from me in a wooden chair, smiling. I've always known you, he said, voice low. Even before you knew me. I tried to stand, but my body wouldn't move. I knew your first word, he continued, and the way you cried the night your cat died. I was there when you scraped your knee in 2nd grade, and when you started your first period. I saw you cut your hair in the bathroom mirror at 13 because you thought no one would notice. His smile didn't falter. I notice everything. When I woke, my pillow was damp with sweat, my throat sore like I'd been screaming. I didn't want to believe it, but the next day, little things began to prove he wasn't lying. A note in my locker that said, you still bite your nails when you're nervous. A text that read, the green socks are your favorite, even though you tell people it's the yellow ones. Another, stop leaving your hair in the shower drain. It was invasive. Specific. Things I'd never posted, never told anyone. When I confronted him over text, his reply came so fast it was almost like he'd been waiting. Me, how do you know all this? Evan. Because you're mine. By now, I had stopped telling myself this was just an overly passionate fan-celebrity connection gone wrong. This was wrong in a way I couldn't explain. He knew too much. He appeared without warning. He vanished without a trace. And there was the way he looked at me, not just with interest, but with recognition. Like I was a photograph he'd memorized decades ago and was finally seeing in person. That weekend, I decided to test something. I changed my routine. Left the house earlier than usual. Took streets I never walked before. I even stopped by a store in another neighborhood, somewhere I was sure he wouldn't expect me to be. I lasted 20 minutes before I saw him. He was leaning against the corner of the shop across the street, dressed in his usual black hoodie and cap. But what made my stomach turn was that he wasn't surprised to see me. He smiled. Slow. Patient. When I ducked inside the store, my phone buzzed. Evan, nice try. That night. I couldn't stand being in my room. The thought of him outside my window made my skin prickle. So I curled up on the couch, all the lights on, TV playing something mindless. At 2:13 a.m., the power went out. I sat there in pitch black, heart hammering. The silence was heavier than anything I'd felt before, pressing in on me. Then, from somewhere near the front door, a voice. "I told you, you can't hide from me." I grabbed my phone, fumbling to turn on the flashlight. The beam caught nothing but the hallway wall, but I knew what I'd heard. And when the power came back on a few seconds later, there was something on the coffee table. A folded piece of paper. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside, in neat handwriting, was a single sentence. "You talk in your sleep." Over the next few days, he started mentioning things I had said in my sleep. Private things. Things I hadn't said out loud in years. My old childhood fears. My grandmother's nickname for me. Even fragments of dreams I couldn't remember until he repeated them. It felt less like he was stalking me now, and more like he was, inside me. Like my thoughts weren't private anymore. I started locking every window, every door, but it didn't matter. Every morning, something of his was there. A gift. A note. Sometimes a photo. One morning, it wasn't a photo of me. It was a photo of my mom. Asleep in her bed. That was the breaking point. I texted him one last time, "If you come near her, I swear I'll." The reply came before I finished typing. "Evan, you'll what? Leave me? You can't. You wouldn't even know who you are without me." I didn't answer. But that night, I pushed the dresser against my door again. Sat in bed, clutching my phone like a lifeline. At some point, my eyes grew heavy, and I drifted off. When I woke, I was no longer in my bed. I was sitting in that same dim, breathing room from my dream. Evan was in the chair across from me. Only this time, I could move. My legs trembled as I stood. "Where am I?" My voice was thin, unsteady. He smiled like he'd been waiting for me to ask. "Somewhere you've been before. You just don't remember." "What do you want from me?" "I already told you." He leaned forward. "Everything." The walls seemed closer now, the air too thick. I felt a slow panic rising in me, and when I turned to the door, there wasn't one. "Let me go," I said. His smile didn't change. Why would I let go of something that's always been mine? When I blinked, I was back in my bed. Morning sunlight streaming in. But on my nightstand, where my phone should have been, there was a new Polaroid. Me. In that room. I didn't sleep the next night. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt that room under my skin, the damp air, the faint movement of the walls, the way his gaze pinned me like an insect. It wasn't just a dream. I knew it wasn't. The photo on my nightstand proved it. I'd tried to throw it away that morning, but every time I looked at it, I couldn't. I'd set it on the kitchen counter, gone to pour coffee, and when I turned back, it was gone. When I went back to my room later, it was there again. On my pillow. I stopped going to school. I told Mom I wasn't feeling well, but she didn't push it. She'd been working late shifts, barely home, too tired to notice much. I stayed in my room with the curtains closed, phone in hand. Evan hadn't messaged me since the last photo of me in the room, but I felt him. Everywhere. At 3:07 p.m. on the third day, my phone finally lit up. "Evan, we should talk in person again." I typed, "No." His reply came instantly. "Evan, that wasn't a choice." That night, I woke to find myself standing at my window. I didn't remember getting up. My hand was on the latch. Outside, across the street, he was there. No hoodie this time. No cap. Just standing under the lamplight in a black suit, his face fully visible, sharp, beautiful, flawless. The kind of flawless that didn't feel human. He didn't wave. didn't move. But my hand kept turning the latch, slowly, until the window cracked open and the night air slid in. That was when I snapped awake fully. I slammed the window shut, locked it, stepped back, chest heaving. When I looked again, he was gone. The next day, I got curious, or maybe desperate. I opened my laptop and typed Evan Blake into the search bar. I'd done it 1,000 times before, but this time, I went deeper. Not the glossy interviews or fan sites, but the old stuff. There were photos from his first movie premiere 10 years ago. He looked exactly the same as he does now. Same face, same skin, not a single wrinkle. I dug further. A blurry newspaper scan from 15 years ago, long before his big break, showing him at a charity event. Still the same. Not just young, unchanged. My chest went cold. People don't look the same for decades. I almost didn't open the next link. A half-broken blog post from a conspiracy forum. The headline read, "The man who doesn't age, who is Evan Blake really?" The post claimed he'd been spotted in photographs going back nearly a century, at a 1970s rock concert, in the background of a 1940s wartime photo, even a grainy black and white picture from 1923. All of them blurry, but the face was the same. It wasn't possible. I slammed the laptop shut, heart pounding. And then my phone buzzed. "Evan, you're looking in the wrong places." That night, the dream came again. The same doorless room. The same chair. Only this time, he wasn't sitting. He was standing right in front of me. "You've been digging," he said softly. "I want the truth." My voice cracked. "You already know it." The walls behind him seemed to pulse, each breath-like movement making the air warmer. My throat felt tight, like the room itself was pressing against me. "What are you?" I asked. He smiled, and it wasn't charming this time. It was wrong. Too wide. Too sharp. "I'm yours," he said, "and you've been mine longer than you've been alive." I stumbled back. "That doesn't make sense." "It will." He reached out, his fingers brushing my face. They were ice cold. "Soon you won't remember a time before me. You won't remember yourself at all." I wanted to scream, but my voice wouldn't come. And then he leaned down, his lips near my ear, and whispered, "Next time, you won't wake up." When I jerked awake, my pillow was wet with tears. My room was dark except for the glow of my phone. One new message. No words. Just a photo. Me. In that room. This time, my eyes were closed. I didn't leave my bed for 2 days. I couldn't. Every time I shut my eyes, I felt the cold press of his fingers on my skin from that dream, no, not a dream, never a dream, and the memory of his whisper lodged deep in my head like a thorn. I thought maybe if I stayed awake long enough, I'd be safe. By the third night, I'd been up for nearly 72 hours. My body was shaking, my thoughts a blur. That was when the air in my room changed. It grew heavier, thicker. The smell was faint but unmistakable, damp stone, like the air in the room without doors. I knew without looking that he was near. I tried to move, but my limbs felt like they were sinking into the mattress. The shadows on the wall shifted, bending in the wrong direction, stretching toward me. And then the mattress dipped beside me. I turned my head, slowly, like my body wasn't mine, and saw him lying next to me. Evan. Every feature perfect, but the perfection was wrong now, like a mask carved too smoothly. "You've been resisting," he murmured. "That's sweet." "Get out," I croaked. My voice barely worked. He tilted his head. "You think there's still an out?" His hand touched mine, and I felt a pull, not on my arm, but inside me, like something was being tugged loose from my chest. The room dissolved. Not slowly. Not like fading out. One blink and the world had changed. I was standing in the room without doors. The chair was gone. The walls were closer. They seemed alive, shivering faintly, a damp sheen clinging to them like sweat. Evan stood in front of me, but this time, he wasn't pretending to be human. His eyes were too dark, pupils stretching until they swallowed all the color. His smile was wider, teeth too even, too many. His skin seemed almost thin, like I could see something moving beneath it. "You've been here more times than you remember," he said. I shook my head. "I've never." He stepped closer. "Do you remember being 8? Your imaginary friend, who sat in the corner of your room?" My breath caught. "Or the boy you thought you saw in the grocery store, staring at you from the end of the aisle? The one no one else noticed?" He leaned close, whispering, "That was me. It's always been me." The walls pulsed again, harder now, like the room was breathing faster. I realized they weren't walls at all, they were flesh. And the sound I'd thought was my own heartbeat, wasn't. It was the room's. "I can't stay here," I whispered, though it sounded weak even to me. "You already are." I turned toward where the door should have been, but there was nothing. Just the same slick surface, closing in inch by inch. Evan's voice followed me. "You'll stop fighting soon. When you do, you'll be perfect. I'll keep you here forever. No one will remember you were gone, because no one will remember you at all." I pressed my hands against the wall, warm, damp, unyielding. And felt something shift beneath my palms, like muscle. Then it twitched. I stumbled back, gagging. Evan's smile deepened. "You feel it, don't you? It's waking up." A sound came from somewhere deep in the walls. A slow, dragging scrape, like something massive was turning over in its sleep. And then, breathing. Not Evan's. Not mine. Something bigger. Something that filled every inch of the space. I realized, with ice flooding my chest, that this wasn't his room. It was its room. And Evan wasn't keeping me here for himself. He was feeding me to it. The walls started to move. Not just breathing, reaching. Shapes pushed out from the surface, stretching toward me, fingers made of pale flesh that ended in black, nail-like points. I screamed. Evan didn't flinch. "It's almost ready for you." When I woke up, I was back in my bed. The sheets were damp. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped my phone. One new message. "Evan, tomorrow." I didn't answer his message. Not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't. My fingers hovered over the screen, trembling, and every part of me screamed that if I acknowledged him, it would make tomorrow real. It didn't matter. Tomorrow came anyway. It began before sunrise. I woke to a sound that shouldn't have been possible in my apartment, the slow, deliberate creak of hinges. My bedroom door wasn't moving, but the sound grew louder, closer, until it was right next to my bed. Then, silence. I tried to sit up, but something was wrong with the air. It felt thick, like I was breathing in warm water. My vision blurred, shapes melting into shadow. And then, a hand slid out from under my bed. I froze. The skin was pale, veins dark as ink beneath it. The fingers curled slowly, like it was savoring the movement, and then gripped my ankle. The pull was soft at first, almost gentle. Then it yanked. The world split. One moment I was in my bedroom, the next, my back hit the slick floor of the room without doors. Only now, the walls weren't still. They writhed, folds of flesh undulating, pulsing in time with the low, hungry thud of that other heartbeat. Evan was waiting. No more perfect boy mask. His face shifted subtly with each breath, jaw too wide, skin rippling as if something beneath it was crawling toward the surface. "You're right on time," he said. I scrambled backward, but the floor gave beneath my hands, warm and soft, like the muscle of some vast creature. "What is this?" I gasped. His smile deepened. "A home. Not mine. Yours." The walls bulged. Something pressed from the other side, its outline barely visible beneath the translucent skin, massive, shapeless, and moving closer. "You've been chosen," Evan whispered, stepping toward me. "It only takes the ones it likes. I told you, you were perfect." The air thickened, heavy with the smell of rot and damp earth. My head spun. The shape in the wall pressed harder until the flesh split, not tearing like fabric, but opening, a wet seam spreading to reveal an interior of blackness lined with something glistening. It was a mouth. The sound it made wasn't a roar. It was worse, a deep, wet inhalation, pulling the air from my lungs as though it wanted to drink me in before touching me. Evan's hand closed around my arm. "It's hungry." I tried to fight, clawing at his grip, but the room itself seemed to move with him, guiding me forward. The floor tilted, muscles tightening beneath me like the whole place was pushing me toward that impossible opening. I screamed. Something came through first, a single tendril, pale and slick, ending in a sharp hook of bone. It wrapped around my wrist. The cold it radiated wasn't the cold of ice. It was the cold of absence. Like it was pulling the warmth out of my blood. Evan leaned close to my ear, his voice lower than a whisper. "You'll stop being you soon. That's the best part." The tendril yanked. I was pulled toward the opening, my nails ripping against the fleshy floor, leaving shallow gouges that immediately healed. The walls pulsed faster, the heartbeat deafening. I caught one last glimpse of Evan's face as I was dragged forward. For the first time, he looked truly happy. The mouth closed around me. There was no pain. Not at first. Just pressure. Smothering, absolute. Then something began to burrow into my thoughts, winding through them, erasing names, faces, memories. My mother's voice faded. My own voice faded. And then, nothing of me was left but a faint echo. When the darkness broke, I was standing in the corner of someone else's bedroom. They were asleep. Young. Pretty. Perfect. In the faint glow from the streetlight outside, I saw my reflection in their mirror. It wasn't my face anymore. It was his.